Oh, he's here.
Linda,
Alex, he's here. We came in together.
you saw him?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Okay.
he's somewhere.
All right, I have the high sign. Everybody ready?
Yep.
Mike's forward. Mike's on. All right. Good evening. I call this meeting of the Lakota Board of Education, Monday, June 20th, 2022 meeting to order. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Adi.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bodie.
Here.
Mrs. Casper.
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Here.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Here. Board, I'll take a motion to to move into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, and compensation of a public employee or official and to conference with an attorney concerning disputes that are subject of pending or imminent court action. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Adi, I'll take you as a first and Mrs. Casper as a second. Jenny, would you call the roll?
Mr. Adi.
Yeah. Yes.
Mrs. Casper.
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie.
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. We'll adjourn to executive session. You all can stay in place and we will rejoin you and begin our regular board meeting as soon as we've completed executive session.
Oh, yeah. Ah, really?
To me this time, Kelly. It was kind to me this time. Did you go? We'll reconvene. The board met earlier in executive session. We will move to number 3 on our agenda for the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join me in standing if you're able?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board will now move to number 4, and I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Julie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. D. Jenny, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
No.
Mrs.
I sent 3 emails to the president to ask her to add on a motion to the agenda, and it was not placed on here.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
and Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. And I'll respond back to that comment by saying that hopefully you saw the 3 emails that went back and forth with Mr. Vogelman to place one of your resolutions on the policy committee, which is the appropriate route for it.
That was not what I was intending, and that's not what I asked for.
I understand. We move to opening items. Board President comments. We have Liberty Township Trustee Tom Farrell. Is Mr. Schramm also with you? Mr. Farrell is here.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. First, all I want to talk real quick about Liberty Township. Can't get up here without saying something. Fastest growing township in the state for almost 10 years. And when we asked our residents via a survey why they came to Liberty Township, their answer was Lakota schools. So thank you for what you do for the schools and for our community. It's greatly appreciated. Matt, I'm here tonight because you received a national award recently, and we wanted to take an opportunity to give you a certificate of recognition. So on behalf of the Liberty Township Board of Trustees, Todd Manier, Steve Schramm, and myself, I have this to give to you, a certificate of a recognition. States the Liberty Township Board of Trustees hereby recognize Matt Miller, Superintendent of Lakota Local Schools, for receiving the 2022 Empowered Digital Superintendent of the Year award given annually to a district leader that is championed to use the technology to enhance teaching and learning. So Matt, this is for you.
Thank you, Trustee Farrell. We appreciate the close partnership and collaboration that we have with our local government partners and really appreciate that recognition. Thank you. And we do like to see Matt blush, so that makes it especially nice. So thank you. We'll move to superintendent comments.
Tom, thanks for coming. Thanks for doing that. Embarrassed, but appreciative of you and your team and all the trustees. And you're one of the first people that I met when I started at Lakota 5 years ago. And so we still have that relationship through all 5 years. And obviously this award speaks volumes about our teachers and about our kids and staff. So thanks for that. All right. On to the regular part of the program. I want to address House Bill 99, the gun in schools bill, just because I know that's why many of you are here. Talk to you about what I can about safety and security, Obviously, we don't share everything just because I think you can understand why we don't share everything. So again, here we are with a polarizing topic, I think. But one thing I would hope that everybody in this room agrees to is that if something bad would happen in one of our schools, it's going to be a bad day. And no matter what things we put in place, and we do a lot here at Lakota, nothing is perfect. And so I preface that by saying, whatever side of the coin you're on about arming people or not arming people, it's going to be awful for our kids and for our community and for our staff. I just say that knowing that there are no guarantees, there's nothing perfect in place, but we do the best that we can. I will mention that Governor DeWine, I think it's recently been publicly posted too, sent a letter to superintendents last week about this decision and why he signed off on it. He talked about student wellness. He talked about social emotional learning, threat assessments, but then he also talked about arming staff. One of the things that I take away from this, and I think this is Matt speaking, is the intent of the bill is for districts that don't have the resources or community manpower to support SROs and school districts. You remember probably, when did this come up last time? Probably 3 years ago. When we did it, we added more school resource officers. The board supported that recommendation that we had one at every campus. I think that comes through in terms of the original intent being school districts that didn't have that, or that the response time in some rural districts would be a concern. Whether you agree with his decisions or not, he has to make some of these calls, and I agree with some of what Governor DeWine does and some things I don't, but I respect the position in the chair and the duty that he has. One of the things that he makes very clear in his letter to us that, again, I think has been publicly put out there is when he talks about arming staff, he says other tools such as a school safety officer may serve your school better. However, I've made it clear that, in my opinion, the much preferred option is to have a school resource officer in each school building. I think, too, he also says if you decide to go down the path of arming staff, that it's not a voluntary basis. It is not something that you're just going to let someone do just because they say they will. There's a lot that goes into that in terms of the background for that. We have, and timing being what timing is, we have made efforts to increase our SRO numbers. We did that 3 years ago. We're doing that again at our high schools and a couple of our otother buildings. So I do want, that was a decision made prior to the tragedy of the kids in Texas. I just think, for the most part, our SRO, well, not for the most part, I always think our SROs do a good job. I'd rather have their presence in our building, neutralizing a bad guy or gal, versus having to put a teacher in harm's way. And there's so many different things that can come out of that, different avenues, different paths about why that's a bad call to do that. I would concur with the governor in this case that having an SRO in every building is the best option, and we have that now. So I do want to mention that. I think, if anything, that I would consider would be if we had retired police officers, retired military that went through a full SRO program. That would be, that's another conversation. That would be something that I would consider. But I think there are too many things that could go wrong with just arming teachers. And there's a lot that goes to that. And so, without getting into too many details, I just want to preface that tonight, because I know that's why a lot of you are here.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anything else?
I don't think so, but I'm always willing to listen to better opinions.
And you'll have more in the administrative update.
A little bit, yeah.
As well.
Not on this.
Thank you. Mrs. Logan?
I just wanted to talk about our financial prospectus that Mrs. Fuller, Betsy, and her staff put together for our district, and you should be receiving this if you haven't gotten it. It will be coming to households in our community. I know we talk a lot about what does transparency look like for this district, and I think that's an ongoing conversation. But this is one example of how we provide that transparency in a much more user-friendly, easier to read format. So I hope that you will take a look at this information. And if you have questions, please reach out. But just wanted to say thank you to Betsy and her staff for putting this together. And I know Adam Zink also worked on putting the information together as well as Darian in the office too. So thank you for that. That's it.
Thank you. We move to public comment. We've got several people that would like to speak this evening. Please remember to state your name as you come forward. Your time is limited to 3 minutes. The timer will be up on the screen back here. Please pay attention to it. When you see it go to yellow, that means your time is finishing very quickly and we need you to wrap it up. And I will cut you off at 3 minutes. Unfortunately, I need to do that to be fair to everyone. So please pay attention to the timer on the front. Please address your comments directly to the presiding officer. Please do not address board members individually. And we don't hear complaints about specific employees in our public comments. You're welcome to take those to Mr. Miller after the meeting if you'd like to. We will start with, I'll ask you to line up as your names are called so that we can move through and get as many people through as possible. We'll start with Alyssa Luigi, and Jessica Allmeyer will follow, and Lynn Martin will be after that. Will you do that for me? Thank you.
You got the pronunciation right. Thank you.
Thank you for the pronunciation key. I appreciate that.
It's not my first rodeo. All right. Hello. Is this close enough? There we go. Okay. My name is Alyssa Luigi. I am a Lakota parent, active volunteer, resident, and graduate. I am asking you not to arm any staff members outside of our wonderful school resource officers. I am also asking Lakota to fund a dedicated SRO to each Lakota building, even ones that are on the same campus, and 2 SROs at each of our high schools. Our high schools have approximately triple the student population of other Lakota schools, 2,500 students rather than 600 to 800, as well as being physically large buildings. The National Association of School Resource Officers is against arming staff who are not SROs. A few of their reasons are because of the concerns about officers mistaking teachers or staff for an assailant, because of concerns over the likelihood that staff are mentally unprepared to take a life, especially the life of a student assailant, because firearm skills degrade quickly, because concerns over a staff's ability to keep a firearm both ready to use and absolutely secure, and because of the risks of discharging a firearm in a crowded school, which could include consequences of serious injury or death of innocent victims. The Ohio Fraternal Order of Police testified in Columbus that if a school employee is carrying a firearm, they are considered on duty according to ORC 109.78D. And therefore, if armed, the teacher's primary responsibility is no longer teaching, but as an armed first responder. They also shared concerns about private for-profit companies influencing school boards into using their standards and training programs for financial gain. The only law enforcement that I have heard speak out in favor of arming school staff is our own Butler County Sheriff, a law enforcement officer who is also an elected official with a vested interest in a specific political party and their own reelection. It is unrealistic to expect Lakota teachers and staff to be primarily focused on educating students, but to suddenly and successfully switch to first responder mode in an instant if needed. Staff's job should be to educate the students in our community, and law enforcement should have the job of protecting those students with lethal force if necessary. Please listen to the law enforcement experts, and rather than allocating funds to arming staff, please use funds to increase SRO staffing to 1 per typical building and multiple SROs at large buildings. On a second agenda item, great choice of hiring Adam as the new SCFO.
Thank you, Mrs. Luigi. Mrs. Allmeyer is up. Lynn Martin follows, and Mr. Brewer, would you please join the lineup? Go ahead.
Hello, Jessica Allmeyer. Thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. I'm a Lakota alumni and mom to a Lakota third grader. And today I'm actually going to keep it short and to the point. I do not under any circumstances support arming teachers. Guns have no place in schools. Arming teachers is fruitless at best and grossly irresponsible at worst. It will not prevent violence in our schools, and it will create liability for the district and teachers and danger for our students. Rather than focusing on what violent measures could prevent violence, we should focus on promoting kindness and empathy. We should take bullying seriously, and we should protect the social emotional learning of our children. Allow our teachers to do what they do best, which is to teach. And on that note, I would like to read a short note that my daughter wrote on SEL, which she has always said is one of her favorite subjects in school. She says, SEL is a very wonderful place. It teaches kids to be kind to each other. How to be calm is important, and the teachers teach very creative ways to be calm and kind. And in life, it's important to be kind. The teachers teach kids to make good and smart choices. For example, when is the right and appropriate time to take medicine? When you're sick, and make sure to ask a trusted adult. And then she put SEL with a couple of hearts down here. So, and always, I would like to thank Lakota teachers. We hope our teachers know that we value them. We appreciate their hard work. We realize how challenging their job is, and we support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Allmeyer. We'd ask that you not applause, please. Thank you. Mr. Martin is up. Mr. Greer is up after that. And Mr. McCall, will you join the lineup, please?
Mrs. Martin. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
I know my name is really weird. Don't worry about it.
I was looking at Mr. McCall and not realizing you were a miss and not a Mr. Sorry.
All right. So I am Lynn Martin. And I'm actually having a really weird sense of deja vu because I stood at this exact spot 4 years ago and had a very, very similar speech. I'm coming as a parent. I have 3 students in Lakota schools. I'm coming as a teacher. I've taught for 17 years, and every year I have 25 to 28 students in my classroom, and you can handpick any one of those families and ask how I feel about their kid, and they're going to say how much I love, respect, and support them and their families. And I used to work at Ross the last time I stood here, but 3 years ago you hired me. So now I'm here and I am a Lakota staff member, and I'm speaking as a staff member as well. But during my training in Ross, they had some really intensive ALICE training, and the officer said some things that really stood out to me, and they are very against arming teachers. And a lot of the reason is because something similar to some of the other people said, if the teacher is the good guy with the gun and they're coming in looking for somebody with a gun, how are they going to know who they're going for? And that if they hesitate because it might be a teacher, well, we know that hesitation could be a life. And if they don't hesitate, then that could be the teacher's life, and that's not safe. They also said that the accuracy rate of police is 20 to 30%. When they're shooting. And that's, I mean, I'm not saying anything negative against them. They are amazing and they're experts at what they do. But, you know, it's a tough and intense situation, and 20 and 30% is those that have been highly trained. So teachers that are going to have a lot less training than that are not going to have that level of accuracy. So where are those other bullets going? My child, my student, my colleague? And extra bullets in the air do not equal safety. And they also said, don't be a hero. That just means more dead bodies. We also have a teacher burnout rate going on, a teacher shortage rate going on. And that's a whole nother topic for another day. But this will only add to more teachers leaving the profession or more people not wanting to come to the profession. And we cannot afford that at this time, to lose more good people. And this doesn't even include what might happen if somebody accidentally got a hold of one of the guns that might be in a classroom. In the end, as my shirt says, we're all in this together. We all have a very similar goal here. So unless you're coming in with an agenda, we all want safe kids. We want safe schools. So we may not all agree about why, but we all want the same thing. And one thing that will not be safe is arming teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Greer, you're up. Mr. McCall, you follow. Mrs. Nix will be after that.
Mike Greer, I'm a resident here of.
Could you pull the mic a little bit closer, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
And my son is going to be a freshman at Lakota East. Now, according to House Bill 99, any individual who receives no more than 24 hours of training gets to carry a firearm on a school campus. Now, have you ever asked yourself how much training a police officer has to have here in the state of Ohio? Well, I'll tell you, is a minimum of 737 hours. So you have to graduate an academy. There's multiple academies, and at least 737 hours. That's 30 times what House Bill 99 requires. So I assume the whole point of House Bill 99 is to arm people to replace school resource officers. How do we expect someone with no more than 24 hours of training to replace an officer who had a minimum of 737 hours of training and an experience as a police officer? It's madness. They can't do that. Take, for instance, what happened down in Florida at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, when the school resource officer, Deputy Scott Peterson, failed to do his job. Now, I'm not disparaging police officers. I've known hundreds of police officers over the past 25 years. I don't know a one that wouldn't run into a school building and throw themselves in harm's way. But that school resource officer didn't. He failed. How do we expect a teacher with no more than 24 hours to succeed where a trained officer failed? It just won't happen. If you want an armed individual in the school, that armed individual needs to be like that man over there, a trained officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greer. Mr. McCall is up next. Mrs. Nix follows. Mrs. Mays, please join the lineup.
Good evening, Benjamin McCall, Gray Birch Knoll. I do not envy your role. I have a lot of empathy for what you all are going through, and it's a challenge. And you are being challenged. And I think the state legislator did a disservice to all school boards in the state of Ohio by circumventing and changing responsibility that should not be your responsibility as a board, nor should it be a responsibility as teachers or staff. So with saying that, I think that is, and that's where a lot of legislation is going, is transferring. I do understand the individual and having individual power, but there's some things where we would want these type of decisions being made amongst our school or on our board. So that being said, around the issue of guns in schools, regardless of where the resolution takes place, I think it's good to have discussion, because there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last couple of years to cause and create some of that discussion. So we have to, in order to create a safe space that works for everyone, you have to be able to talk about that amongst parents, in community open forums, and allow others to share their feedback so you can make those good decisions. But I think it's also challenging that over the last 2 years, and especially over the last year, there's been a lot of questions around administrators and teachers. We've questioned, and there's been a lot of questions around trusting how they teach, what they teach, how they handle the mental health of our students. And then potentially with this state legislation, transferring that responsibility over to school boards to make that decision, now asking us to trust administrators, asking us to trust teachers with firearms when we can't, or some can't, or many can't trust certain teachers and administrators with curriculum. So I just say that out loud to really think about, as a community and as a board, what direction we're going in with these decisions, what makes sense for you to spend your time on. Because we have a 5-year plan that we need to focus on. We have a Lakota master plan that is very important to the future of all of our children, as well as along outside of curriculum and funding. All of this costs money. It's not cheap. I've said plenty of times before, some of you have heard me, I want everything and anything for my kid. And as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay a lick of it. And we have to be honest around what we can and cannot pay for, where we should put our resources. And this is where we already have fundamental programs. We have an SRO program. We have a contract that you're going to be approving for SROs. So spending time there rather than spending time and money and your precious time and focusing more on creating a brand new program that should not be in schools that could potentially be in a school. So thank you for that and good luck. And I envy you.
Thank you, Mr. McCollum. We appreciate the good wishes. Mrs. Nix, you're up next. Mrs. Mays will follow, and Aaron Kime, please join the lineup.
Good evening. My name is Linda Nix. I live in Liberty Township. My child's kindergarten teacher still teaches for Lakota. If they choose to arm themselves during school, what will their responsibility be to their kids in their classroom? In an active shooter situation, will they have to act on the greater good of all the students? Do they try to move their kids to another classroom so their kids are taken care of and then engage? Do they stand their ground and stay put and protect their kids? These are all questions that are just beginning, that we need to touch base on or look at. If there's an angry kid and they're trying to disarm the teacher, do they risk being overpowered? And what happens if they're overpowered and then the student has their weapon? You've got a 5'4" female teacher and a 6'2", 250-pound student. How are they going to protect themselves? Are we going to have a student most likely shooting an unarmed student, or a teacher shooting an unarmed student because they have to protect their weapon from the other students? What kind of weapons? How many rounds are they going to have? Are they going to carry it? They got to be locked up. All these questions that need to be looked at before you even think about where to go with the next step. We need transparency on all the costs that the district will incur, the training, the safe storage, the liability. I can't even imagine what that's going to cost. If the teacher chooses to not use the weapon and children are injured or killed, do parents have a legal recourse against that teacher? Because are they held to a higher standard because they are carrying a weapon? How will innocent bystanders injured by an offshot attack? What's going to happen about them? Will the district stand behind the teachers? Will they have to defend for themselves? Are they going to carry their own liability in order to, is it the district or is it the teacher? I'm sure the district is going to take priority. So I can guarantee you that if a child is injured or killed by a teacher's weapon, the district is going to face severe emotional and financial consequences. In June of 2021, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that if a teacher is armed in school, they have to have the same number of 700 plus hours of training as peace officers do. The NEA, the OEA, the Ohio FOP are all against arming teachers. I don't get how all of these major decision makers are ignored by our politicians. I sure hope it's not ignored by our board.
Thank you, Mrs. Nix. Mr. Mays, I'm sorry, Mrs. Mays is up. Mr. Kime follows.
I don't think you want that.
Mr. Corbin Minch will be up next. Go ahead, Mrs. Mays.
Sharon Mays, President of the Lakota Education Association. On behalf of the certified staff at Lakota, which includes teachers, psychologists, guidance counselors, and other licensed professionals, we do not support guns in our schools. The focus of our educators is to teach and guide our students. Based on our survey with our staff, arming teachers with guns would lead to losing valuable educators to other districts. The LEA will work with the Lakota administration to discuss other safety measures that could be taken to provide additional security in our schools. I've been the president for 13 years and I take my job very seriously, and my members are saying no. And you'll hear more if you'd like to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mays. Mr. Kime is up. Mr. Minch follows. Brittany Paquette, please join the lineup.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Kime. I live at Liberty Woods Court in Liberty Township. I'm going to buck the trend a little bit, and I'm here to speak to you tonight about voting no on the payment in lieu of transportation resolution that's on the agenda for this evening. I have a sixth grader at St. Joseph's Consolidated School in Hamilton. I also have a freshman and a junior at Lakota East. So I like to think I can see both sides of this issue. That said, I, along with many other families that would be impacted by this resolution, have rejected the pilot offer and requested mediation from ODE. This resolution would affect a large number of tax-paying voting families in Lakota. Many of these families have two working parents and are not able to transport their children to and from school. There are 6 factors that ODE provides for determining if transportation is impractical. These are ambiguous. If you actually read through them, there's no threshold or metrics provided to make that cutoff determination. In the presentation given to the board on this topic on May 9th, there was also no concrete threshold provided for this determination. Simply stating the number of students per non-public school in comparison to others does not tell the whole story. Multiple schools may be served by the same bus, for example. Transportation is a valuable service to all of the over 100 families that would be impacted by this resolution. I ask that the board not confuse impractical with inconvenient when voting on this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Corbin Minch is up. Brittany Paquette will follow. Kate Bredestegi will be up after that.
So good evening. My name is Corbin Minch and I'm a resident of Westchester Township, and I have children that attend the school district. So while we all hope and pray that such an incident such as Texas never happens here at Lakota, we should not be allowing teachers to carry deadly weapons into our schools. The required training is set forth by the state of Ohio is a total of 24 hours, 20 of which is first aid and a history of school shootings. So literally, we're talking about giving people 4 hours of scenario-based training to carry a gun into our schools in order to attempt to handle an active shooter situation. 4 hours to try to teach a person to override their flight or fight instinct, to hold a gun steady and true, to shoot only the bad guy and not a bystander or a student, a fellow teacher, a police officer, a paramedic. 4 hours of scenario-based training. Come on. I'm not the only one who feels that this is a bad idea. As we've heard about the Fraternal Order of Police, they're against it. The National Association of School Resource Officers, they're against it. And as Matt mentioned, even Mike DeWine, he indicated that the best thing is to have a police officer in the building. So should you decide to move forward though with this bad idea anyways, I think I'd like to know what exactly the school district's response to the community is going to be if an accidental shooting happens to occur. Again, that's either a teacher accidentally shoots a student or the student wrestles it away from a teacher and an incident occurs. Because if you move forward with this, you're actively and complicitly inviting this potential problem into our schools. I urge you to strike this down and not allow our teachers to bring weapons into our school buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minch. Mrs. Paquette, Kate Bredestegi will follow, and then Amanda Ortez.
Hi, my name is Brittany Paquette. I am a Lakota alumni, the mom to a 4th grader and soon to be kindergartner. And I'm also a teacher for Princeton City Schools. There's not much that I feel like I wanted to say that hasn't already been said. Just to reiterate, putting a gun into a panicked and undertrained teacher's hands in a crisis is only going to end in more crisis. More guns does not mean more safety. And I believe the way this is written on the agenda states that Lakota would also fund this. As a parent who pays taxes, there have got to be other ways to use my money. There have to be other security systems, not just resource officers, which are great. There are door locking mechanisms. There are building-wide security systems that can be utilized. We have a lot of outdated buildings. I went to Hopewell Elementary long time ago. Using the funds to update, I know we have in our plans, but using some of these funds to update some of these older buildings to make them safer, make them less accessible. Those are all things that I think would be a better use of Lakota's money. And I think the teachers would also support. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bredestegi is up next. Amanda Ortiz follows. Tina Carpenter, please join the lineup.
Hey, you're 2 for 2 for pronunciation tonight. My name is Kate Bredesteggy. I just wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to be addressing the topic, like many others, on arming teachers in the Lakota School District and add my voice to the cacophony of parents who have already stated, and educators who have already stated the obvious, that this is a horrible idea. Let me count the ways. Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland school districts have made statements against arming teachers already. I have numerous logistic and fiscal questions to pose, similar to some other people, which I'm also going to be emailing the board as well, so you can have all of those in writing, so you don't need to write down every single question I'm going to ask. I am going to state these, however, for the benefit of all of us. Where would firearms and ammunition be stored? Would other teachers or administration have access to an individual teacher's firearm or ammunition? Who is paying for firearms and ammunition? Gun safes, holsters? What measures would be taken to ensure that students would not be able to access the guns or ammunition? What kind of firearms would be permitted? Handguns, rifles, shotguns? Will we permit knives and bladed weapons as well as firearms? Will we be providing body armor optional for teachers who request it as a result of permitting teachers to carry? Who would pay for that? Who is paying for training? What kind of training and how much training? Who would have to conduct the training? Would there be a requirement to repeat and having training continuity? Would this be on a district basis or a statewide basis? Will there be a mental health evaluation for each teacher who chooses to arm themselves? Who is paying for those mental health evaluations? Will there be a requirement for continued mental health evaluations following the initial one? What requirements will a teacher have to be required to carry in the school per district rules, not state rules? Will background checks be applicable? What flags or incidents would be enough to disqualify a teacher or administrator from carrying? Who is responsible for the death or injury of a student or staff member? Will there be additional liability or life insurance taken out? Will the teachers be required to pay personally for any incidents or damages that are caused by carrying weapons in school, such as a student getting a hold of their weapon or the teacher or staff member losing their temper and brandishing their weapon at students or other staff members? Will the teachers be required to pay for their own mental health services or legal aid following any accidents or shootings? Will the district or the teacher be required to pay for medical treatment or mental health treatment of any other students or staff members? Would a teacher responsible for the death of a student or staff member be required to pay for that child's funeral expenses? Will teachers or staff be entitled to hazard pay? Will they be offered additional health?
Could you wrap up, please?
In short, one more thing I would like to point out. In our district, I was told that school trainings are for active shooters, and for students and staff are taught never to pick up a weapon because they could be misidentified as a gunman. What happens then?
Thank you. Mrs. Ortez is up. Tina Carpenter follows. Thaddeus Kuhn, please join the lineup.
Hi, my name is Amanda Ortiz, and I live in Westchester, and I have a second grader at Shawnee. I would like to start by saying thank you for making Lakota schools safe. After the tragedy at Uvalde, I realized that many of the mistakes that occurred there would not happen in Lakota schools because of the safety measures that are in place. With that being said, I'm deeply concerned that the idea of arming Lakota teachers is being brought up by the board. With the passage of Ohio House Bill 99, the training requirement for an armed school staff member has been reduced to a measly 24 hours. The following organizations have researched arming teachers and concluded it would create a more dangerous situation: the National Education Association, the American Federation of Teachers, the American Medical Association, and probably most importantly, I think, the National Association of School Resource Officers. I know we all want to keep our schools safe, but when all these organizations oppose arming teachers, shouldn't we listen to them? I do not want my child to be a guinea pig while Lakota Schools goes against this advice and we experiment with arming teachers. If the board chooses to move forward with arming teachers, I have a couple questions. I'm a what if person, and some of these have been brought up before. So what if an armed teacher tries to shoot an intruder, misses, and hits my daughter? Now my kid is injured, disabled, or dead because that teacher is minimally trained and was given a gun. Who's held accountable if I have to bury my baby? Is this board held accountable? Teachers, the district? What if the gun is improperly stored and a student gains access to it and shoots his classmates? What if the teacher has a gun but hesitates to shoot? Maybe the shooter was a former student and they recognize him. In that moment of hesitation, the intruder maybe gets away, shoots more people. Is the teacher now responsible because they hesitated, because they're not trained? What if the police shoot the armed teacher thinking that he or she is the intruder? Again, I know we want our schools, children, and staff to be safe, but this isn't the way that we do it. I'm not asking a police officer to teach my kid math, and I don't think we should be asking our teachers to be police officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Carpenter, we have time for one more, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Kuhn, Mr. Cheney, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Greenler, and Mrs. Jackson. If I can move you into the second public comment, you'll go first in that section. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tina Carpenter. I'm a resident here in Westchester, and my kids go to Creekside, where I'm a pretty active PTO member. I'm not going to reiterate everything everyone said. They've made so many great points. It's not really worth it. I just wanted to give you a little bit of my background and tell you kind of where I'm coming with the gun, like why I have the opinions that I have. So my house has guns. We keep our guns in a safe. I'm not anti-gun, and I do not believe that guns should be in the schools. I do not allow my kids to go to a house if I do not know if there is a gun in that house. If someone's coming to my house, I let them know that I have guns in my house and how they are safe and how they are kept. My kids know gun safety. Not all kids know gun safety. Some kids are very curious and they'll pick up a gun because it looks cool and it's in video games and they might point it at a wall. What if it's loaded? You know, they don't have the training. And if they stumble across a gun in a classroom, then they're going to do that. You know, like it's just common nature, human nature. I also used to be a zookeeper. If you guys know anything about zoos, there are dangerous animals that work at the zoo. Don't know if you knew that, but it's a very common thing that we have shoot teams at the zoo. We do not give every single staff member a gun to shoot an animal if it gets out. Animals that they are in very close contact with. There are specific people that are members and staff at the zoo that go through many hours, much more than 24 hours of training to make sure that they are mentally stable, that they can shoot accurately, and that they have the training that if they see an animal, that let me tell you, these people, these animals are their children. A lot of them do not have children of their own. They are animal people, and they know that they may have to shoot their own child, basically, if it gets out. So again, not every member of a teaching staff is going to be able to shoot a child that's not even theirs, that they have taught, that they have a vested interest in. And so it's really important that they have really great training, like our wonderful police officers that's are. So I'm just kind of throwing you something from not even the education world, where guns are considered in the workplace. I also asked my children how they would feel about it. I have a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. One of them actually said she would feel a little safe, and the other one said he would not, and specifically because of a specific teacher that he was maybe afraid of. So keep that in mind about the mental health of the children, and maybe let's go for preventative instead of trying to fix a problem. Let's try to prevent the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Thank you all for your comments. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Logan, did you have any comments? Okay. Thank you all. And those that were signed up, we will move you to the beginning of the second comment section so that you can speak as well. We'll move forward to 7 board updates. Butler Tech, Mrs. Schaefer.
I have some things to hand out as always. There's 2 items. So our last meeting was the day after Butler Tech's graduation, the day before our graduation, first graduation. So it might have been the shortest meeting we've ever had in the history of the time I've been on the Butler Tech board. So we just talked a little bit about we basically just took care of business at that meeting. There was some discussion that when the president was in town, Butler Tech was able to be there, and they were mentioned in the introduction which was always nice, of all the good work that is being done by Butler Tech. In addition, we have a meeting tomorrow. We're going to talk about the community needs assessment that is being done through Butler Tech. We're also doing a tour of the construction of the Natural Science Center that's going on right now. There's also going to be an ACT Leadership and Empowerment Conference that's going to be hosted by Butler Tech. That is September 22nd and 23rd. We are adding a school resource officer at the Monroe Natural Science Center. So while that's under construction because of the increased capacity of students, previously they had shared an SRO with Monroe schools that are on the same campus, but they're going to be adding a resource there. There's also a fundraiser that will be coming, and I handed out a pamphlet to you or a page on you that's a save the date. That's going to be at the Lawrenceburg Speedway. The Butler Tech Auto Tech students have created a race car, and that's going to race at that fundraiser. So that'll be a fun opportunity for those students to see their work in action. There continues to be discussions with the Butler County Commissioners on funding of the Aviation Center and the Advanced Mechanics Lab, but we still don't have any word on that at this point. So I think that's it for today.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Any questions? Board?
Do you know, have you had a conversation with anyone that would
Can you
possibly
speak into the mic?
Sorry. Have you had any conversation with anyone who could possibly work on legislation trying to improve the funding and release the cap so that you can have more funding for Butler Tech?
Yeah, and that's been an ongoing discussion. Butler Tech actually employs a lobbyist who works both for us at the federal and the state level. And Butler Tech sends a team up at least twice a year to meet with our local legislative representatives. That's certainly something that comes up regularly, and they are continually working on that. It seems we always are received very well when we go up there. We hear great things, but the cap continues to be in place at this point in time. So it is definitely a major effort on Butler Tech's part. They actually have somebody on staff as well who manages legislative relations. So it is a very high priority of Butler Tech. But again, it's not something still, even given all of that effort, that has changed at this point.
Another question, have they partnered with any other tech schools in the state of Ohio to kind of create a stronger force of approaching legislation to possibly say, hey, all of these technical schools are needing more funding and the legislation is preventing that?
Yep. Just like our typical public schools, each school's needs are a little different. Butler Tech is one of the few that isn't able to meet the demand. So their need is a little bit different than what we're seeing in some of the others. In fact, some of our students are able to go to other technical schools that still have capacity because it's a more unique Butler Tech problem. Okay. But John Graff is also on a leadership team across the state to work with other superintendents on not only those issues, but how we can continue to build the model that has been so successful at Butler Tech and replicate that so other students can benefit from that across the state.
Okay, thank you.
That's been happening for a number of years with national organizations as well. Butler Tech is highly involved and active legislatively.
Thus, they were invited to local, state, and federal representatives when they were in town recently.
I will also say this problem has been solved with the Fair School Funding Plan. If they follow through with the full implementation and the full phase-in of that, which the plan was to do a 6-year phase-in, which would be 3 biennium budgets. They've done it for the first biennium budget. So if we strongly support the full phase-in of the Fair School Funding Plan, this cap will not be an issue for Butler Tech or any other career tech center in the state of Ohio. So the problem, in my opinion, has been solved. We just need to fully phase in the plan.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jenny, for that addition.
Yeah, I have a question, which is a follow-up to the question Debbie asked, Ms. Bodis asked. What is your target audience for the fundraiser
Oh, what
for
if
this
they
very
use?
event?
So the students in different programs need money for their technical kit. And so the fundraiser that they're doing at Butler Tech is to help fund the students who might need, if you're in an auto mechanics program, you're going to need a whole set of tools. So that will help fund the cost. If you're in the cosmetology program, you need a whole different set of tools. So it's for students who may need support and being able to fund their toolkit. And that's why they do the fundraiser.
That's the purpose. That's the purpose, right?
Mhm.
Now, who are you inviting for this fundraising?
Anyone who would like to go can attend.
That's what I want.
You need to be there, Ms. Drake. Sounds like a good cause.
Yes,
Anything else?
absolutely.
All right. We'll move to legislative update. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Logan.
The only other thing that I have besides House Bill 99, which is the arming teachers and staff bill, the only other piece that I would have is Ben Doherty, who was one of our teachers in the Cyber Academy, is getting his award. I think the award comes out tomorrow in Washington, D.C., so he'll be the cyber.org Teacher of the Year. But legislatively, he's meeting with 10 very high-profile senators, he and Andrew Wheatley. So they will be in D.C., and so I can't wait to hear how that goes. But these are the people that you see on the news. So yeah, good for us. Good to have representation there. So wanted to mention that.
Very good. Thank you. Mrs. Logan.
I don't have any other update at this time.
I have a couple of things. Mr. Adi, do you have anything? Okay. Legislators are out until September, so the summer will be quiet. I know they're back in their home districts and campaigning and that kind of thing. I was invited to be a part of the OSB at the state level, the vision and strategic planning team, June 3rd and 4th, spent 2 days working on strategic goals, especially as the organization looks to reframe itself apart from NSBA. So a lot of time spent wordsmithing and working through where does the group want to go. So it was very interesting work. As I think we all know, the state superintendent was in office for a very short period of time. So the search is back on, basically a minute. Yeah. Kind of sad to see that happen, actually. Board, there is a 101 workshop for new board members coming up on July 30th. It's just a one-day event taking place in Columbus. If you're interested, I can get you more information on that. And then at the end of this last session, we saw a flurry of bills to pass. So House Bill 583, which was a bill to extend the flexibility for substitutes. And I believe that was good for us, right? Yes. House Bill 190 was about modifying the ballot language and property tax levies. Mrs. Logan has voiced her opinion on that legislation. House Bill 99, one of the things that Mr. Milley did not mention was that the bill was modified by the Senate and it created the Ohio School Safety and Crisis Center within the Ohio Department of Public Safety. And that is a group that has been organized or will be organized to help develop training and that kind of thing. So looking forward to seeing what the state does with that out of their legislation. House Bill 687 was the capital budget bill, and I believe it was passed in 1 week. Was that correct? It was a very short turnaround. Do you have any specifics on that?
I do not. I know that, I know as we're talking about the master's facilities plan and we talk about that, the state of Ohio funds school district capital projects every year. So that was part of that. The Ohio Facilities Commission list for school districts was part of the overall list as well. So just to put that out there.
And I think there was also, in addition to that, a one-time appropriation of $100 million in grants for school buildings to help for physical security enhancement equipment or inspection. So that was also part of the capital budget process. We'll be looking at that closer to see how it impacts us. Anything else on legislative? All right. Mrs. Casper, community engagement, any update?
We had 3 community conversations or community meetings about the master's facility plan, which I thought for being in the summer were very well attended. I think that Chris and his team did a great job explaining it with the charts and Jenny did a good job explaining her portion of it. So I think it was well attended. We recorded the last one, correct, Betsy? And it is on the website in case anybody could not get to any of the three of them. But if you didn't, we still are going to be scheduling more. Correct? Do we have dates on those yet?
Yep.
Be on the lookout.
So we're looking at mid-July, just in case anyone couldn't hear Mrs. Fuller at the back of the room.
Mid-July, be on the lookout on the new website.
I had several people say, I'm really sorry that I missed those. Are you going to be doing more? So.
Yep.
Anything else on community engagement?
That's what we've done since last meeting.
Okay.
Emphasis on that, if you don't. For those that are interested, and I know some are watching on the Zoom, this is the time to speak out, be part of this process, so that when it is done, it's done. Not in a situation where everything is concluded, somebody wants a change and wants to change it now. So this is the time for community to get engaged. And we appreciate to hear from you all and to make the job easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Anything further? All right, we'll move to number 8, administrative reports, superintendent update.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Connor. The first thing I'm going to ask Mr. Passarge to come up so that he can address any concerns that you might have, and he might have more to share with you in regards to payment in lieu of transportation. That's up for a vote tonight. Coming out of the back.
Came out of the corner.
Good evening. How y'all doing tonight? Good.
Good.
All right. I'm just going to give you a little bit of update from the last board meeting. We talked about the payment in lieu of. We talked about the costs and the recommendation why. So I want to recap that, give some updated numbers so you have some additional information for tonight's decision. So the recommendation is really twofold. We do still anticipate a shortage of drivers for next school year. So that's the main driver for this recommendation. I meet with our transportation team on a regular basis. They are out hiring, recruiting. We're getting people in, but we're still not where we need to be as far as being able to cover all of our routes for next school year. So that's one of the main reasons why we're pushing for payment in lieu of transportation. The second one is in the new House Bill 110, there's a requirement for the districts to certify each year that they are meeting those requirements to provide transportation to all eligible students. So with that, in the legislature, is based on, we have to go through and answer questions and verify that we provide the transportation to all eligible students. The superintendent has to sign off on that we've done that. And if we aren't able to do that, then we may be subject to additional penalties, financial penalties from the state for not providing transportation to eligible students. So the main driver for this recommendation is to, one, we're not going to have enough drivers, and two, avoid those financial penalties because we won't be able to provide transportation to all of our eligible students. So those are the two main drivers. Recommendations for this are done on an annual basis. So if we continue to increase drivers and it happens to get back to a status where we have drivers to do all the routes, we can relook at this on an annual basis and approach it from that perspective. Industry experts expect it's not going to get any better anytime soon. So, but we will look at it on an annual basis. And the schools that we're recommending for impracticality tonight may not be the only ones next year if it continues down the same road. There are 6 criteria that are used within that. And I'll go over a few here real quickly. The criteria is based from the state that each district must use these criteria when determining impracticality. And as the gentleman said earlier, there are no guidelines or thresholds in statute. So it's up to each district to look at their individual operation and determine how it could impact their individual operation. So that's what we did. We looked at the first requirement is to look at the time and distance traveled for non-public students compared to your internal students that go to schools within your district boundary, not only Lakota schools, but we have 2 other schools that are within our district boundary. So that's one criteria we looked at. And we looked at that. The riders that go outside of Lakota have a significantly longer ride time than those that are within the Lakota boundary. And the one-way range from eligible schools outside of our boundary, anywhere from 5.5 miles more to 19.5 miles more one-way miles for those schools. The number of pupils transported, it's another criteria. We have multiple families request transportation, but actual ridership is usually far less than requested. Most buses have 10 or fewer riders on them on the bus. When we look at another criteria is cost, when we look at the estimated cost for a 3-tier Lakota bus, the cost structure for next year in our contract. So with 45 kids on a bus for 3 tiers, the average cost per rider is $630 for a Lakota student. And if it's only a 2-tier bus, it goes up to $943.20 per Lakota students. For the recommendations this evening, if you look at a cost per rider, it ranges anywhere from $4,659 up to $37,418 per rider based on the actual riders for kids. So that's why cost is not the only driver, but it is a concern.
Say that number one more time.
The range for the smallest amount per rider for the schools that are listed as impractical is $4,659.30. That's the cost per rider. And it goes up to $37,418 for 2 kids on one bus that would be transported.
Thank you.
We also asked if there are equivalent or similar transportation. And in the past, again, we provided transportation because we had enough drivers to provide that, even though it was more costly for us. We did have low ridership. We had the personnel in order to provide that service. And now it's just a case we do not have that personnel to provide that service. And with the additional requirements of House Bill 110, to be able to go to my boss and to the board to say that we met the requirements, I feel that we will not be able to do that and would be subjecting the district to additional financial penalties, which isn't financially responsible as one of our tillers. And lastly, just to look at the total piece, we have 16 schools that are being impacted that are in this request. I looked at all the riders from last year and people who requested this year. I assumed if you went there last year, you're going to do it this year. There are some riders from last year that still have not made that request, but we still assume that they may at some point. So we had 142 students that have either had transportation last year or requested it this year to these 16 schools. And out of those that received a letter for impracticality, 17 have accepted, 27 have rejected, and 43 have not responded to the letter. So over 50% have accepted the offer of payment in lieu of, and we have 27 that have rejected and will seek mediation through the state, which is the process we go through. Any additional questions? I know that was fast.
Thank you for all your diligence in that detail. So that cost per rider of whom we're transporting right now that we won't be potentially won't be transporting any longer could go up if you consider the funding loss that would happen if we don't meet the requirements of House Bill 110.
Correct. It would go up for all students.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the penalties would entail us losing transportation dollars.
It would. The thing with the legislator within that there is no, you're either in compliance or out of compliance. There is no criteria would say, well, we didn't have enough drivers or this happened or this happened. It's either you are or you're not or not. So when I talked to our ODE representation from the administrative side, they say the legislators did not allow any kind of variance for exceptions in the criteria for House Bill 110. So either you are compliant or you're not. There's no in between. So if you're have one bus or 2 buses that you don't have drivers for a long period of time, you're not compliant and you're subject to lose financial money from the state for those or be penalized for those.
Chris, that happened.
In our case, we had on average 20 buses a month scheduled or canceled last year. So that could be significant dollars in the long run.
In the scenario you just said too, I think some districts had to deal with that this past school year up in the Columbus area.
Yeah. Some districts they did receive penalties for noncompliance. And I did want to point out, the gentleman earlier said the decision is based on convenience. It is not based on convenience. If we had enough drivers, we'd be doing the same thing we've done in the previous years, supplying transportation, but it's just the fact that we don't have drivers at this point in time. And with the House Bill 10 requirements, in my role, I cannot stand up here and do it any justice by saying, yeah, we're going to try to do it and fail to meet that and receive those penalties. So I think this is the best course of action, to take a proactive approach, not to be penalized. And again, we'll reevaluate it on an annual basis to see if we're able to do that in the future.
Madam President.
It sounds as though the legislation has put us between a rock and a hard place for our families. I find that very unfortunate.
I think the intent was good. When they tried to move up the dates to look at in practicality before, you only had to give a 30 days notice to parents that you weren't going to provide transportation. I wanted to start this well before 30 days because I knew the impact that would have on this community and our families that don't attend Lakota. So I wanted to start this process now, so they would have time to prepare and plan. So,
Madam President.
Mrs. Bodie.
So I understand with the legislation, again, that does put us between a rock and a hard place. But I feel based on the principle that the state believes we should provide busing and gives us funding to provide busing. I think with the taxpayers and the state funding, that we owe more to the community and to these students than just a ride to the school. And I think that I feel that there is a way that we should be able to provide busing for these students. I don't know what that is, but unfortunately, I feel like we need to figure out another way than just providing them funding, because we can't give their student a ride to school.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Jenny, do you have an estimate of what we get per student for funding from the state?
No, Chris, I don't have that with me.
I don't have it off the top of my
Okay,
head
that's
either.
okay. It's well below the $600 that we're paying per student ridership, I would imagine. Or we can't even say that. Okay,
I don't
okay.
know. I don't know.
I will say this with surety, that we are not getting the 4,000 or the 37,000 that I know Chris mentioned. Those are, outside of the norm, but I know it's not those amounts.
And the reason those costs are high is they're only able to do one tier of service. So those buses can only go to these schools and transport to these schools and back. They can't do another early childhood run or another run after they're done, because the bell times are such that when they have to be at school, when they have to be picked up at school, are the busiest times of the day for all of our students. By the time they get back from doing their runs in the afternoon, our students are already dismissing and they don't have a chance to do another run. So that's why the cost is so great for those, because they're unable to do more than one service a day.
Makes sense.
Any other questions or comments?
So in House Bill 110, Chris, we have to provide busing to our students. So with the shortage of drivers, what we're saying is that if we don't figure out how to not drive some of the private school children, which we want to, we may not be able to transport our own children because we don't have the
Well,
drivers.
they are our own children, but
I mean, our own,
right,
yeah,
right.
I'm just.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
This
I'm just
recommendation,
trying to understand the House bill.
yeah, the House Bill 110 basically says you have to certify that you provided transportation to all of your eligible students. The ORC also provides an opportunity to provide payment in lieu of. So from my perspective, this is a proactive approach to make sure we can certify that either we provided transportation or we made a payment to those families in lieu of transportation. I believe as we get into the school year, we're going to still struggle to provide drivers on a consistent basis for all of our schools, Lakota and non-Lakota. So this is more of a proactive approach to try to eliminate any potential financial hardship that the district may receive from the state for failure to perform
That's what
services.
Okay, that's what I was hoping.
Is there, and I know what you're saying, but it's
Still a risk out there. I'm trying to reduce that risk.
right. And the fact that we can lose transportation dollars for it. Is there a chance to reevaluate this mid-year if our driver situation improves?
If you have to start, once you offer it and it's accepted, it's
It's
got
for
to
the
go
whole
through the
year.
entire year. You can't change services. You can't cut it throughout the mid-year. You can't add it back. mid-year.
Next school year?
Next school year, you could reevaluate it for sure.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, Ms. Darty, anything?
Madam President,
Yes.
what have we done to try to get bus drivers that we have, and what have we not done that we could possibly do? I feel like this is something that I know it's a struggle. I went to the Frost, Brown and Todd training in Cincinnati, and they said that even Dayton is struggling with the same thing. But I want to challenge, the district and the board. We need to find ways to be able to provide busing to these students. I mean, I think it's terrible that we can't provide the busing. And again, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I think that is the challenge, is to figure out how we can staff our bus drivers.
I know our partner with Peterman, they've done a lot to try to offer incentives for signing bonuses. They pay for training. They have referral bonuses. For people who come in, they'll guarantee a number of hours, even if they don't attain those hours. So they're trying to do everything they can to try to get people in the door and keep them in service. As I said at the last meeting, it's a unique job where you come in the morning, you have a break for most drivers, then you come in the afternoon, and most of them don't get a full 8 hours during the day. So most of them get anywhere from 4 to 6 to 7 hours. Very few get a full 8-hour day, and some of them need more than that, and we're not able to provide that right now. Just the nature of the job right now.
But you provide benefits for them as well.
They do provide benefits. They pay into SERS. They will get a pension like any other public employee. So we're trying our best to try to recruit and retain. It's just the turnover is so great, and my peers across the tri-state area are feeling the same effects as well.
I just drove last week from Minneapolis to Phoenix, and I saw signs several places going from across states. It's not even just a local tri-state
It is not.
issue. It's a national issue.
Right.
There's a CDL shortage in all transportation, trucking industries.
Right.
I don't think it's an easy job either. And I appreciate they're important to our students. They are doing a very important job transporting them safely, but it's tough.
It's much easier for me to stand up here and say, we're going to provide transportation to everybody, and it's done.
Right.
It's very hard to tell families you're not going to get it and try to go through this process. I'd much rather not go through it, but I just know this is our reality right now, and I'm trying to do the best we can with what I know.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Passarge. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Chris. The only other item I want to mention was Mr. Coney could not be here today. He's now sick. But we are looking at entertaining 4 companies for proposals for our curriculum audit. I'll shoot you an email with the names of the 4, but they are McGrail International Education Elements, Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, and Curriculum Management Solutions. So he was going to talk more about that tonight, but he'll be out of action for a little while.
Can you send those to the board
Yep,
in an
I will
executive summary,
send that.
please?
I will send that tomorrow.
And what kind of timeline is it that you're thinking?
Hopefully tied in with our strategic plan too. So August start,
I'm sorry,
August.
that it would start?
Yep.
And do you know how long it will take?
I don't yet. He might know that, but I don't know.
When you have a chance, could you get that to the board from
Sure.
Mr. Coney with the details, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board, any questions on that or anything else?
I do feel that there's still more discussion to be had on what is critical race theory. We need to define it. And as a board, we need to decide whether we agree. I think as a board, we need to decide whether we agree with it or not, and then find a company and I have certain questions that we need to ask certain questions that we need to ask depending upon whether or not the board thinks it is a good thing or a bad thing. We need to find a company that is supportive of what the board says critical race theory is. So again, we still need to ask these 4 potential auditors some serious questions regarding critical race theory once we decide as a board if it is a good or a bad thing for our school.
Can I say something on that as well? I know for critical race theory, we submitted letters which had all the concern that we have and the questions.
Part of it.
Okay,
Yep.
Is that part of it?
It is.
Because I want to understand if there's something, any other question different from what we already submitted to you, and we are asking that we want to see in the audit.
Yep, correct. That'll be part of it.
Okay, so is that what you're asking or something different? Miss,
I don't understand what you're saying.
what I'm asking is, you said you still have some more questions. I know we submitted a request letters to the superintendent. Those are the things we're looking for. Do you still have more, or, because I want to make sure he understands.
Well,
It's very important to.
first, we need a definition from the superintendent. What is critical race theory? I'm still waiting on that.
Mrs. Bodie, if you have any concerns about our teachers teaching critical race theory, if you could direct those to me so that we could deal with it as soon as the issue comes up, that's probably the best way to do it.
Well, my question is, if you say it is in the schools or say it is not, how do you know when you haven't defined it? So that is my concern. And I think we need to define critical race theory. And if you say it's not in the schools, how do we know? Because you have not yet set a definition.
Mrs. Bodie,
Of what it is.
what is your definition of CRT?
One at a time.
What is my definition?
Yes.
It's when you're putting race at the forefront of everything. It is the ultimate decision. If you're whatever you are, whatever race, sexual preference. Audience. Whatever your identity, whatever you identify as.
This is a
race,
really important discussion. I know there's really strong feelings about it. There's strong feelings all the way around, but I would ask you to please let us have the discussion.
Every
Thank you.
decision is based on the ethnicity or the sexual preference of a person, and then it's an attack on our Western civilization. It's an.
Hold on.
Please.
The first thing I heard you say, Mrs. Bodie, was that you think it's in the forefront of everything we do. And I will say that that's not what we are doing. So no, we are not doing CRT. First and foremost, the first thing that we do is we're student-centered. We're learner-centered. That's what we do.
Board, are there other comments? Mr. D?
Yes. This is why we are waiting for the curriculum audit to come out. And my suggestion would be, when the audit is out, we will have a committee from the community to look through everything in the curriculum. That way we clear everything. Because everybody is interested in knowing whether there's CRT or no CRT.
Part of what you're saying is going to be one of my goals for next year.
Yes. Okay.
But again, with any of the 5 of you, if there's an issue, if you let me know when it happens or you see it, or if you have a concern, it's best just to take care of it at that time. So I would just appreciate that. It'll just help us move a little bit smoother.
So I'll follow that up by saying that if there is evidence that people believe there are things in our schools that we shouldn't be teaching, now would be the time to submit that to the superintendent for the purpose of being evaluated through the curriculum audit. We also have Lakota Listens, which is on our website that was established last fall. And you have an opportunity there to upload any information you need to upload that you're concerned about. If you feel that your students are not being taught something or are being taught something they shouldn't be, please send it in. Help us to figure out what's going on. We need your help.
And that happens, that
And we
comes up,
want-
we do that.
This is not about politics. This is about making sure our kids are taught what they need to be taught. So if there is evidence, now's the time to send it to him from the board or community members, please. Lakota Listens online. It's up in the corner on the right-hand corner, and you can submit any concerns that you have.
Madam President.
And in case anybody have any concern, that can be anonymous as well. We're not ensure that if you don't want your name or your information known, there's a process how that can be done without even your name or your child's name known.
Mr. Miller, do you want to speak to the anonymity issue?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has a concern about retribution or something falling back on them, they can send something directly to me and I'll take a look at it. And, I'll need help with answers, quite honestly. The only time I would break that anonymity, and I think my administrators and staff know that, is if it directly could endanger a child. So depending on what the scenario is, that would be the only time I'd break that confidence. That's the same mandating reporting that all educators have to do.
Madam.
So send it directly to you.
Okay.
And you will honor the anonymity.
Yep.
Madam President, I did submit an example to you and Isaac before we were sworn in, and it was an ACT. This is just one. It was an ACT question. And
Wait a minute,
Do not,
please.
we do not control. So what was said was that because it is a third party, we do not control, but we do control the third parties that we pay for. So if we are paying an organization, a third party that we know has critical race theory in their ACT questions, I would part ways with that organization and find another one that does not have critical race theory questions.
Mrs. Bodie, we
involved.
did address this prior to you coming on the board. I'll run with it. So the college board organization is the group that develops the ACTEs. That is their test that's accepted across the United States as a national pre-entrance exam to college. There's only one organization that I know of that does that. And I do remember what you submitted. I think it could be looked at with some bias, but the point is there's not another organization that does that kind of work. And I'm not going to impact our students' admittance to college by getting rid of that organization. There isn't another organization.
There
So
isn't
that's
that you
not
know
an,
of,
that's
right?
not an option for us.
So
Not an option
So
for
there's
us.
possibly another organization that we could partner with that is not indoctrinating our children.
I'm going to ask that we stop. We're going to move on from this topic because we still have quite a bit to do tonight. Going to ask that we move on in audience again, really important conversations. I know you feel strongly, but please restrain yourself.
Mr. President. I
Last comment.
She mentioned that my name as well, so I want to make sure this is clear. This, we talked about it, like you said, and it is an organization that coordinates ACT, and we're not on their board, except if we don't want our students to write ACT because of what their own policy, then that is going to hurt us instead, right? So we don't have control over what they do, but we have control over what Lakota School District does. I think we talked about that, and we came to resolution. So I don't know.
Absolutely, we do have control. And again, I say that we can part ways with that organization.
We're going to move on now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for your spirited comments. Appreciate it. Mr. Miller, anything
That
else
was
on the curriculum audit?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll look forward to hearing that move forward and to seeing the executive summary on it. Board, we'll move on to number 9, new business. There's been a board member request that the board develops and ultimately funds a program that gives additional training to those who complete the state program to conceal carry and wishes to use it at Lakota, and further move that this training be carried out by qualified contracted individuals and entities, and that the classes be held at Lakota. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Adi, thank you.
For discussion.
Mrs. Bodie, I think there's probably a lot of discussion here. Would you like to start?
Yes, I would like to read my motion.
I just read your motion, so you don't need to read it again, but please go ahead and talk about your motion.
Okay, so I think it would make sense that the district pays the fee associated with going through the state programs and funds additional training at the district, that we will come away with a substantive and much more comprehensive security force with just the cost of the certification. And I also think that with regards to the wisdom of arming individuals who are so disposed to serve the school district in this manner, I've gotten communication from all sides, as you would expect, but I think one in particular caught my attention with regards to the training, and that's why I'm making this motion, is to offer more training. If this is the place, if this is where we decide to go. And I think it is certainly much less expensive and would be a much greater security force to pay for training volunteers. And if we see fit to utilize volunteers, I think it would be a good idea to have looked into the cost and logistics of facilitating a supplemental training program such as proposed in my motion. And then one program for teachers has been brought to my attention. It's a program for training and for the use administration it's basically training for a teacher to carry and what involves in that. So there were many concerns tonight that was brought up, and I agree, there are some concerns on there that these trainings actually address. And I think I think there is a mindset that when you go through this training, this mindset adjusts this training adjusts your mindset so that you take the proper procedures. And I think another thing that I learned about this training was one thing that would have helped the Texas, possibly, I wasn't in the room, so I'm not aware, but when someone has a wound, this training that I'm going to go to, it teaches how to address a wound so that the child or person does not bleed out. And I think that would be very useful in a training like this. Not only are we carrying, but we also have to have some minor medical training to save the lives of the children in the room. I think that's very important.
Thank you. Let's give other board members a chance to comment. Mrs. Casper?
I have a couple of concerns. The first one being that the motion addresses as if we have made the decision to arm teachers. And we have not, obviously. In my opinion, there is a whole lot that needs done before that would be consideration. And I'm on the record of saying I am not for arming teachers. However, we haven't had any discussion with our community. We haven't had any discussion with our staff. For goodness sake, we changed copy paper in this district and we asked the community what they think. I mean, we haven't had any discussion. We haven't talked to legal to find out how we would implement that. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if we did this, it's not a resolution, it's an actual policy change. So I don't think we're anywhere near funding a program to train staff when we haven't even made that decision.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Mrs. Schaefer, anything?
Again, I agree with many of the points all the points actually that Mrs. Casper made. It's been a long couple of days anyway, but I've sat here tonight listening to the comments that parents have made about their concerns arming teachers. And as the only sitting board member who currently has a student in the district, I've been sick to my stomach to imagine what that would look like. I talked to my own son about that and what he felt. And I asked if he talked to his friends, and he's like, it is such a bad idea. We haven't even discussed it because it's unfathomable for me to even believe that that could happen. And I just think going here, I don't expect our SROs to teach our kids, and I don't expect our teachers to protect our children in that same way that an SRO with their specialized training can. I've watched videos of people who are expecting an armed intruder to come into their room. They have done simulations, and even expecting that, they've been hunters their whole lives. They've been gun advocates. They've been different people from different walks of lives, and expecting an armed intruder, they still can't pull their gun out quickly enough that they died in this simulation that they did. Again, I have so much respect for our SROs and the job they do. I sat in a simulation where our Westchester police officers, Liberty Township was invited, our fire EMS was all there. And they said, the SWAT team, they said, we would be able to respond to your schools within 2 to 4 minutes. I would much rather have that staff there who has the training and expertise to protect our kids. I feel like right now we're just trying to put everything on the plate of our teachers to solve every social ill, every protection ill, everything for our students. And they need to be there to teach, and we need to let our SROs protect our kids. So
thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Mr. D.
Okay. While we had public participation when you were making your comments, I was writing some thought that came to my mind. This is a law that has been passed in the state, signed by the governor, which is an indication that everybody is concerned about school safety. So it's not only at the board level, but all the way to the governor. And tonight, I also heard what Mr. Miller said. There are a lot about this law that we are yet to comprehend or to understand. because from the briefing you got, I think the governor had a lot more that we need to understand. Then the good thing again is that what the sponsor of this law is from our school, our county, and we have two legislators, Senator George Lang and Jennifer Gross, that were involved in this and they voted for it. So in my opinion, there's still a lot more we have to do before we start talking about funding, because we have not concluded yet. And as we go through the process, I have some suggestions that I think is going to help us in our decision making before we even get to where we talk about funding, which is getting our legislators, the three that I mentioned, inviting the sheriff, the chief, the sheriff and the chief police of Westchester to come to our meeting and address and hear what the community is saying. At the end of the day, we can now draw our own conclusion, because I believe the law was made to suit each district. Even if we're going to arm teachers, it's not going to be that 24 hours training that is being recommended. I don't know what the process is. I don't know how long it's going to take to get there. But at this point, I have many other suggestions, which I know with time I'm gonna bring that out. But one of it also is to get background check for all our teachers. If that has not been done, all our staff, including the board, every board member should be checked. I mean, should have their background check, because it's another part of safety and security for our school. So for now, I will believe that we hold off on sourcing funds for that until when we have done all our work and decide on what we're going to do. But that's my take on that.
Thank you, Mr. Andy. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Logan.
Oh, you go first.
You want me to go?
You go first.
Since it does talk about funding and a course, I don't believe a course has been established yet. So I do feel like, I think Kelly said it, we don't even decide on what copy or paper we're going to get. And I know that was an extreme example, but since I arrived at this district, we started community conversations, and this board started community conversations when we were in a very dark place financially. And you believe in that practice, and you've kept doing that for, I don't know, almost a decade, probably. Why would this issue be any different than any other? Why wouldn't you have community conversations, talk to your staff, talk to your parents, do that due diligence before? I mean, safety and security is number one above all else. And I know of all of the community conversations that we've already done and trying to plan on the money side that we're looking at and the facilities side of what we're trying to build for the future for our students. That fails in comparison to the safety and security of our kids. So if we're spending that much time talking about facilities, shouldn't we be doing the same thing when it comes to the safety and security and this very important issue? And I know there are many different thoughts on this topic, and it's one more polarizing topic, but can't we talk to each other about things and work through this together?
Thank you, Mrs. Logan. Mr. Miller.
I had a question about the resolution mentioning the classes be held at Lakota, all the classes, all the training.
You know, I think there's still discussion on that. I mean, I would like that some of the classes be held here. I think if we're going to provide for the teachers training, I would assume that they would be held here so we don't have to pay for an extra expense at another location. That could be a possibility. I think, what I'm asking is that we give the administration the ability to look into potential facilities on the school property, as well as options regarding entities or organizations that offer training and the associated costs. So that is just one option. But I think with what the legislation that the governor put a program in place to aid in the security of school districts by offering training and the ability to be sufficiently armed to deter a would-be school shooter, I think it makes sense for us to look into how Lakota could possibly use this program.
And he also said that school resource officers were a better option than arming teachers. And the same.
So
But
before
again,
we
I
do a
think
back and forth,
I think that is up to the board to decide on what we think would be the best idea. And again, I'm just asking that we give the administration the ability to look into potential facilities on the school property. I'm not arguing whether or not we should carry at this point in time. I am just looking to add on to training if we decide that that is right for our teachers, to add on to the additional 24 hours of training.
So if there are no further comments,
I
will make some. Did you have something?
Just that it's like we're putting the cart before the horse. We want training when we haven't made the decision to arm teachers. And so I think that's where one of my issues with the resolution is we haven't said that. Also, I did have one other issue, is that it doesn't state anywhere in the resolution that you're talking about staff. It just says persons, and it concerns me that an 18-year-old student could decide that they wanted to carry, or a parent volunteer decided they would come in a building and they would carry. So I feel like, again, we're putting the cart before the horse, because we haven't said or made a policy that we're going to allow staff to carry. So it just seems premature.
We do have a policy on students carrying weapons, and that is PO 5772. So we do have a policy, so that does not open it up to our students, obviously. And we also have a school safety policy, PO 8400 as well, that we can choose who is armed.
Yes, correct. We do have all of those, but we haven't decided that yet. So having a program in place is premature.
I think that supports that we haven't made that choice yet. So I'll make final comments and then we'll wrap this up and move on, if that's all right with everyone.
A little loady.
I'm sorry.
I said for the poor little Lincoln back here.
We have our assistant treasurer's very young child at the back, and we're thinking about his bedtime. We have to be honest. So Mrs. Logan said it, the safety and security is our number one priority. And it has to be first and foremost. In terms of this particular resolution, I have more questions than anything else. The intent of the resolution, who would carry anyone, a parent, a visitor to the building? There's not a vetting process that's put forward. Training at Lakota, I don't believe we have a gun range available, and so I don't see that as even being optional. I also think if we do have training of some sort, it should be coming from our school resource officers, from our SROs. And it's very vague in terms of what constitutes a qualified individual. I also have a question about Lakota paying for training, again, for whom? The board has had one discussion on this, exactly one discussion, and there have been no decisions made. And I think when we look at this from a more global perspective, I was a part of the School Safety Summit, the group that was responsible for bringing the barricade devices into the district. That process, just to bring those devices into the district, took over a year. It had to go through many approvals at many different levels. It was an arduous process. I'm glad we did it. But deciding to make a vote in one board meeting when we've had one board discussion is not the process that I think is appropriate to go through. I think it is important to remember the governor just signed this bill a week ago. I appreciate the legislation. I appreciate that it's permissive legislation. The districts have the right to decide for themselves what works for their districts. I'm on record in saying several years that I'm willing to consider something more than what we have now. And the reason for that is it's very personal to me when I look at the loss of life, when I look at the trauma to students and their families and their staff. It's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable and unimaginable for us. And I think most of us understand that you have to have layers of security. It's not one security strategy that works. If we're going to save lives, we've got to be thinking broader than that. None of us want to even think about much less discuss. And the board's had a hard time with this discussion because it is unimaginable to us. The horrific evil violence towards students and staff members that would create these kind of situations, like the recent tragedy in Robb Elementary. It's a conversation, frankly, I don't want to have, but I honestly believe we don't have a choice. The time has come that our community has to have more straightforward, respectful conversation around it. I voiced my support. In fact, I brought it up in the one board meeting that we've had for a pilot program that would utilize community military veterans or retired former law enforcement, that I would love to see a pilot program using those individuals. I don't think at this point, I would say arming teachers is the appropriate move for our district at this point in time. The program for me with using military veteran law enforcement would require procedures and training developed by our own SROs and law enforcement, very stringent psychological evaluation, background checks, weapons retention, proficiency training, recurrent training, physical fitness requirements. I also think it's really important to remember that the 24 hours of training that the bill cites is a minimum. And I would expect a recommendation to come forward for SROs that there be far more than that. I also would like to see our teaching staff have an opportunity to participate in receiving training in how to respond to the loss of life once an incident occurs. That would be entirely voluntary. I don't know that the rest of the board agrees on this. We've had one conversation, but I think understanding how to help stop the loss of life makes sense. I think our staff and civilians that work with our students, coaches, youth pastors, scout leaders should have access to additional mental health training in recognizing red flags and behavior, and also resources available to help those students. I'm not bringing anything to the board for a vote tonight. There's a lot of conversation to have. And so I believe at my core that it's a conversation we have to have as a district and a community. I'm going to therefore suggest that we table this motion for tonight, that we set up a meeting, as Mr. Adiz already said, talk to our sheriff, talk to our police chief, bring in our SRO officers and have more conversation with them. Have a community town hall discussion so that our community has an opportunity to weigh in. Bring in the legislators who set this legislation in place and have them discuss with us what the intent was. I think that's totally appropriate for them to hear from our community about why they put this legislation in place. We have a lot of work to do to have these discussions and to make sure that whatever we develop is something that's appropriate to Lakota for our students and for our staff. I therefore move that we table this motion that's currently on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Further discussion? Seeing none? I'm sorry, Mrs.
So
Casper.
do we have to vote on the first motion or just? Does this
If we
replace
table it,
Jenny?
if we table it, no.
Okay, I'm gonna be calling Jenny every.
Mrs. Logan, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
No.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. Thank you again, board, for discussion. I know there's a lot of passion and thought around this, and we'll continue to have discussions on it. Thank you also to the community members who let us know what you thought about the legislation. We've heard from a lot of you, so thank you for that. We will move to 10A, the approval of the 5-year treasurer CFO employment contract of Adams Inc. That'll be effective at August 1, 2022. And the chair will move that motion forward. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Discussion, and remember, he is in the back of the room, so.
Oh, darn.
Go ahead.
I am thankful that Adam is considering this position, and I appreciate so much the tutelage he's had under Mrs. Logan in his time here to work into this position. And I have high hopes of the many things he's going to bring to Lakota, just as he did when he was the CFO for prior districts to Lakota. So I look forward to working with Adam for many years in the future.
We're excited to have you. we are thrilled that, again, that you got to learn everything from Jenny that you possibly could in those years that you were here. I also would like to thank our board representatives, Linda and Julie, who helped, organize and keep us all informed. So we are very excited to have you. Or to keep you, I guess, is a better way.
I think that keeps the important part. Mrs. Bodie?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds with you as our treasurer. I think it's very beneficial that Adam has been underneath Jenny. And I think with Jenny's many awards, I think this is an excellent choice for Lakota in its future.
Thank you. Mr. D?
Yeah, I'm also very excited that Adam, you're coming on to do this. Especially that we have the outgoing. I still have mixed emotions. Not anything against you, Adam, okay? That we have 10 years that we work within our budget and we've been doing very well. And for the fact that it's still within and you've been trained, I'm excited that there's going to be continuity in this. So thank you so much.
$10 years of a balanced budget. You can expect that to be on your goals for the future. Jenny, and we're not saying goodbye to you tonight, but we are very thankful for your past record and for the fact that you thought ahead enough in our succession planning to bring Adam in with the purpose of developing someone to take your place at the point that you decided to retire. So thank you for that. Thank you for the planning ahead. As always, your long-term planning has benefited the district and certainly has tremendously here. Adam has past treasurer experience, not just assistant treasurer experience, which we appreciate. He has sat in the seat before. As the assistant treasurer, he has worked alongside Jenny and hopefully learned all of her secrets. We'll find out. He's been deeply involved in all aspects of Lakota's finances, and he's learned from the best. The board has the utmost confidence in Adam. I'm assuming this vote's going in the right direction, Adam, so I'm saying this now. The board has the utmost confidence in Adam and his commitment to continue Lakota on a path of terrific fiscal responsibility. So with that, please call the roll.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes.
Mrs. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. Adi.
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie.
Yes.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Mr. Zink, I invite you to come forward for a moment, and if you'd like to speak at the podium, and then we can also ask your family to come up and we'll take a picture. And Mr. Miller, once he speaks, I'm going to give you a chance to speak.
Too late, you took the vote.
It's too late. I thought I should do the vote first.
I want to thank everybody for the opportunity. It's a very big job, as we all know. It is very bittersweet because it means that I won't be getting to work with Jenny every day, but I'll also be getting to work with Matt. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to working with the exec team and the community, knowing kind of what the expectations are. I know 7 years ago, I think it was, Jenny started having these talks with me about coming to this crazy place called Lakota. And it has been challenging. I always tell people when they come work with us, there'll probably be several times in your first year that you wish you didn't come here. But it's very rewarding work because it's very difficult and it pays off. I want to thank, I want to also thank my wife, Monica. She's in the back. And everybody, if you heard Lincoln talking, I'm sorry, he's been jabbering back there. So I'm going to apologize in advance for all the late nights that we'll be putting in and all the hard work that's going to go into this. So again, thank you all for this. And I look forward to the opportunity.
Thank you, Adam. Stay right there. Mr. Miller?
I'm not going to acknowledge the person to my left. I'm going to focus on you tonight.
Exactly right. It's his moment.
I'm looking forward to the next decade with you side by side and moving this district, this great district, further ahead than it already is. And I'm excited, since you already mentioned their names, I'm excited for Monica. I'm excited for Lincoln and the great work that we have to do. And just glad that you are a part of the team. And it's one of the things that I latched onto when I first came here was that there was an heir apparent, because I knew that this lady to my left was not going to be here forever. And so that was important for me professionally, but also personally, I'm excited about the stuff that we get to do over the next few years.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mrs. Logan, the last word is yours.
Well, I just want to say that Lakota won tonight because you get to keep Adams Inc. Whew. When I called you and asked you to come and take a chance, and I just said, trust me, this will be worth it. And it's hard work, but I knew Adam well enough to know that he wasn't scared of work, because you have to have a work ethic beyond anything else to come to this district and to work. And it's challenging, but it is so rewarding. And I am so excited for you. But Lakota won. So congrats to you, because he is awesome. And he is a sought after treasure too. I want you to know that. Other people would love to get him into their district. And so you won. And so congrats. And I'm very happy for Monica and little Lincoln. So congratulations.
I have set off the alarm in the central office a few times for being there too late.
Yes.
We'll expect you to keep that up. Let's acknowledge Lincoln's bedtime here and go ahead and get a picture taken.
Okay. He's like, what's going on? Oh, what's going on?
All right, guys. See you.
Yeah. I'm gonna cry every meeting between now and.
All right, we still have a bit more work to do, gang, so let's get back to it. Jenny, we move to 11, the treasurer's recommendations, action items. A, to approve the minutes. B, to approve the monthly financial reports for May 2022. C, payment in lieu of transportation for the 2022-23 school year. D, approve resolution for payment in lieu of transportation for the 2021-22 school year and adopt fiscal year 2022 final appropriations. Sorry, there's a few more. Adopt fiscal year 2023 temporary appropriations. And G, to approve the fund to fund transfers and advances. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kelly, was it? That was you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Mrs. Casper.
Madam President.
Mrs.
Is this just to make them, sorry, I'm confused. I wanted to
vote on these
pull
items.
two out.
Which would you like to pull out?
C and D.
All right, I will pull C and D out. So we will vote on A and B and D through G.
A and B and D through G. Okay.
All right. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Mrs. Logan, would you like to discuss?
Can you go ahead? I've got just a few slides to go through tonight. I promise. So tonight, I just wanted to kind of highlight what is the status of this end of the fiscal year. So our fiscal year is from July 1 to June 30th. So, you know, when we looked at this year and we were planning this year, did we stay on the right path? How did we do? So how did we finish? Because we are at the end of the year. Our total revenues for our general fund, $192.7 million. It's 1% more than we projected. On the expenditure side, $190.7 million, 1.5% more than we projected. So our spending surplus, remember we talked about, we've had a balanced budget for a decade. It is official now, by the tune of $2 million. So our ending cash balance is $115.3 million for our general fund. So tonight, what are the steps? I know when Linda read through that long list that's on the agenda under my item, there are quite a few things that only happen at this time of the year. So one of those things before you is to finalize the appropriations for FY22. So that's in front of you. And those are done at the fund and object level. So you've got that resolution. And we need to approve temporary appropriations because we cannot spend any money before those are approved. So July 1 is coming before we have our next board meeting. So you need to approve temporary appropriations. I will also say that those temporary appropriations align with your 5-year forecast in May. And then in September, when the new treasurer, Adam Zink, comes to the meeting, he will have permanent appropriations for the board to look at. So you will finalize your budget in September. Tonight, what you're merely doing is adopting temporaries. And then we'll file all of that information with the county auditor, which we have to do before June 30th. So we'll be filing that tomorrow. And then you need to look at, as a district, what actually occurred, dig into those details, which we've already started doing, and adjust for next year. And then when you look at your 5-year forecast, you'll take a look at, what do we need to adjust? What assumptions do we need to revise? So again, it is official. You've balanced your budget for a decade. There's more to learn with state funding. I know the conversation just about career tech funding. There's still more to learn with our new state funding. And will it be extended? What's coming in the future? We're having staffing discussion in July, which is very timely. And I will throw in there substitute teachers. That needs to be included as well. And then you're going to be talking about your strategic plan, which is coming in August, correct, Matt?
Yes.
So just keep working on aligning those resources to your strategic plan. It's always important to make sure that those priorities and that plan is aligned to the resources. So that's all the takeaways that I have for you tonight.
Are there any questions?
I think, again, to celebrate, it's not just a decade of a balanced budget, but it's also accumulating $115 million of reserves when we often are told that we spend everything we possibly can. I think it's important to know that we were prudent in what we chose to spend money on in order to accumulate savings for the future.
Absolutely.
Any other comments?
I know it's a team effort, Jenny. You and Matt like to say that, but 10 years of a balanced budget is pretty darn impressive. So we thank you and your teams.
It is, and it's not just the team of the fiscal department. It is all of us.
Right.
That was hard work. And I salute the board for their leadership to make sure that that happened. But yes, it's something to celebrate.
And especially if any of you were around from where we were 10 years ago, where we came from. It's a great feat. So thank you.
Having been there with you 10 years ago? And when you came into the district, We were in an incredibly challenging place. We were looking at state receivership. That's how bad it was. And the sacrifices and the hard, tough calls that had to be made. And you were right there from the start, and it shows. And I'm very grateful over the years for your leadership, Jenny. Grateful to have worked with you for it. Any other comments?
I'd like them to say thank you.
I think it's great that we pushed off the deficit to 2024. It was in 2023, so I look forward to continuing to push that off. And I do like that we do have the cash balance, but I also think that we need to continue saving because, again, we do not know what the future holds and with the economy the way that it is and potential, what's the word I'm looking for?
Recession?
Yes, sorry. Thank you. A potential recession. I think it is wise to continue adding to the cash balance.
I agree with you, Mrs. Bodie, on continuing to work on the deficit spending. That is absolutely a challenge in front of us.
Yeah.
All right, any further comments or discussion? We will, Mrs. Logan, if you'll call the roll on A and B, please.
Is it just A and B or?
Just A and B. I'm
Oh, I
sorry.
thought no, we're just taking out.
Let me
the-
take that back. A, B, E, F, and G.
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes.
Thank you.
I realized my own voice strength.
Mrs. Casper gets very excited about these treasure recommendations.
Oh.
All right, board, we are looking at a vote on C, payment in lieu of transportation for the 2022-23 school year, and D, approve resolution for payment in lieu of transportation for the 2021-22 school year. Is there a discussion?
I just think based on the principle, we should be able to provide transportation to those who we are basically saying, no, we cannot.
And in theory, I absolutely agree with you, Mrs. Bodie. And I think that legislation and the lack of bus drivers have put us into a perfect storm, which unfortunately impacts our families directly. And I hate that we're in this place. I really do.
I don't
Any
think
other
any of us
comments?
I don't think any of us like that we're in this place.
Right. All right, without further discussion, we'll take a vote.
We don't have a motion or a second.
I thought, oh,
No, we just pulled it out.
we not motion? Wait a minute.
Like,
I believe we motioned for all of it and then pulled it out after that. Do you
Correct.
want a separate motion?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll take a motion for C and D.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Bodie. Would you please now call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
No.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
yes.
and Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. We'll move to 12, the superintendent recommendations, action items. A, approve personnel items. B, approve the amended 2022-23 school year. C, a second read for approval of the 2023 school year. D, approve the MOU for SROs with the Butler County Sheriff's Office. E, approve the MOU with Lakota Schools with the Westchester Police School Resource Officer Program. F, approve the contract for SROs with the BCSO, Butler County Sheriff's Office. G, approve the sale or disposal of used textbooks. And H, approve donations.
Can we pull G?
Go ahead.
Can
Are
we
you
pull?
making a motion?
Yes. I make a motion to pull, and can we pull G from that?
All right, we will pull G. Can I have a motion for the rest of those?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper.
May
Is
I-
there just?
Sorry.
Is there discussion starting with Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Just briefly, I want to mention, I don't normally call people out that are leaving, but I do want to acknowledge Mr. Rich Bryant, who was our Lakota East Athletic Director and served in so many other capacities for that building, both with athletics and logistics. And COVID things and so many other things that go into that. And so I just need to publicly thank him for all the work that he has done on the field, in the building, and in the community. We wish him well. He's going to his home district, which we certainly understand where his kids are at. And glad to be promoting from within Jill Meinering as the new athletic director at Lakota East. And so well deserved. And that was his recommendation that everyone that has worked with Jill concurred with. So we're excited about that. The other items I want to mention is under the calendar changes. We are adding, making a revision to next year's calendar that we will be off on the primary day, which is one less thing to worry about in terms of school safety for our kids. So that's the change to the revision. And then Mr. Vogelman included at your seat tonight the approval of the 23-24 calendar, which also concurs that unless they're going to change the primary days, but who knows, that we will be off those days as well. So I want to make mention of that. And thankful to the Westchester Police Department and the Butler County Sheriff's Office for continuing their work with us, and those contracts are included as well.
I'll start board discussion. Thank you to Mr. Vogelman for the work on the school calendar, and thank you to the district for being responsive on the security concerns that were brought forward about having the schools open on election day. I think that's really important. So thank you for that. Again, we've talked about safety and security quite a bit tonight. And when we think about our partners, we have tremendous partners, not just our school resource officers from both sides of the district, but also with their leadership and their administration teams that work with us as well. Could not do what we do without their support. So very thankful for that. Other comments, board?
Nope. Yeah, I have some comments. So I looked at the personnel items. And so last board meeting, I spoke and said that we had 60 so far leave this year. We now have admin and teachers. So I want to throw some numbers at you real fast. In 2022, so far, we've had 62 people leave in half of a year. In 2021, we had 48 leave in a full year, 43 in 2020, 68, which had an uncommon amount of people leaving during the summer in 2019. And in 2018, we had 47 leave the whole year. In 2017, we had 55. Last year, we had 3 from East leave. This year, we've had 11. So I would like to suggest, just based on these numbers, that we start, that we may implement an exit interview. We need to know why these people are leaving. And if it is teacher burnout, like you say it is, that's great. But we also need to know why we've had an abundance amount of people leaving so far this year. And I also would like to recommend maybe, I just received information on someone that we could use to an outside HR program to possibly audit East High School and find out kind of what's going on with that and why we've had about 2 people leave so far this year. So I'm just concerned, and I would like some answers on why we have had this amount of people leaving. And I think implementing an exit interview would really help shed some light on what is happening in our education system.
Don't we do that? Doesn't Mr. Kramer, doesn't HR do an exit interview? Are you saying you're concerned that 2 people left East this year?
No, 11.
There's over 200 staff members at East.
But last year there was only 3 that left. So if I feel like and when I looked in all of these other records in the past, there's not that many. So I just want some answers. And the other thing was, Rob emailed me and said they do not do an exit interview. It might be verbal, but there's no documentation. And I think as the board, we should be able to read why these people are leaving. And if there is a concern, then we discuss it. But if not, that's fine as well. But I do have questions why 62 people have left so far in half of a year, where 68 is the most that have left in a full year in 2019.
Did you look at some of the reasons? I mean, did you see how many resignations there
Well,
are?
there were retirements and resignations, but still, I think there would be some explanation. I think that would be very helpful.
Mr. D.
Okay, I think we talked about this before. If I remember, we dealt with this before, but in my personal experience, working in corporate America for over, I can say for 20 years now, attrition is, there's no way you're going to stop people from leaving. People leave with different reasons. Could be retirement, could be better opportunity somewhere else. It could be moving out of the area. I mean, so many other reasons. And I believe that when we talked about it, Mr. Miller, remind me, you said the HR department they sent questionnaires to those people, and it was like, why are they not responding?
Yep.
You cannot force people to respond.
Right.
So are we not still doing that, or?
No, I mean, a lot of times it's verbal. I mean, for Mrs. Bodie's concern, I'll get some further clarification on it. I've not heard of any overriding issue aside from what we mentioned before about teacher burnout, about people being able to retire. There's some adjustments that STRS is making now, so that impacts it as well. It's hard. It's hard being an educator right now. And so I think this is probably, some of that is probably addressed here by what we're seeing. And so I have not had anybody saying it's this person or this group of people or anything like that. Usually when you see things that happen.
I also think you need to look at, and maybe I'm wrong, the percentage. I mean, did you say 68 so far this year? Is that what you said?
Compared to last,
62.
in half of a year compared to last year, which was 48 in the whole year.
Well, I mean, we have over 2,000 employees, Rob, back there. Shake your head, yes or no? 1,800. So the percentage is not outrageous, but I understand your concern.
It's a good concern. However, you cannot.
It's good for us to take a look at.
And continuing on,
We can bring it up at staffing next month too. I think that's a good place to put it.
the percentages would actually be helpful.
Yeah.
Compared to how many we have on staff this year versus since 2017. If there's something that we can do to find that would actually be helpful. And if it shows that there is not a concern, that's fine. But I am concerned, so I'm just expressing that. And then my other concern was number 12. We're disposing of many some of these books. How do
So
we?
we aren't discussing that yet because you asked for it to be pulled out. So let's do our vote first on the others. We'll come back to that.
Okay, just didn't want to miss the conversation. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I just didn't want to miss the conversation on it. Thank you.
We'll come back around.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
Perhaps we should also look at how our actions can potentially impact resignations as well, because I know I've gotten anecdotal responses that a staff member who was questioned as to her teaching practices and was on this resignation list, and one of in your count was didn't want to wait for the gotcha moment to be let go, but instead was choosing to resign prior to that, feeling that that was what was happening within the district. So in that discussion, I think we need to own potentially where we may be having an impact.
Or you could say that there are people teaching things that they should not be, and they're concerned that they will be found out, so they leave.
I want to be very clear. That's very disrespectful to that staff member. That did not happen that way. That's not fair. That's not fair to her. That's not fair to her at all.
He was a well-liked staff member who my kids had in the building, and many kids chose to request.
I wasn't implying her personally. I was just saying
You didn't imply, you said it.
It was out of order. Let's leave it there. All right. Without further discussion, we'll take a vote on items A, B, C, D, E, F, and H. I have a motion and a second. Mrs. Logan?
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie,
yes.
Mrs. O'Connor.
Yes. I'll take a motion for G, approve the sale or disposal of used textbooks.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. The chair will second. Is there discussion?
Yes. So how did we come by the list of what books to dispose?
These are materials that are either outdated or have been replaced by other materials. And we haven't done this in probably 3 years before COVID, so it's sort of been a backlog. So it's just a way for us to either sell, dispose, or donate current materials.
Is some of this list from Hamilton County ESC?
Don't know that for sure. I wouldn't think so. I think they don't sell textbooks from the ESC, to my
But
knowledge.
They did say that some of ours were outdated. So what I'm wondering, is this part of the list of what they said was outdated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other thing that I have concern about is that we are getting rid of many science books from central office. Number one, we're getting rid of Western civilization books, The American Nation, We the People, and Let's Discover Ohio. What are we replacing these books with?
Be glad to work with curriculum on getting you that list. I can tell you that those concepts are still being taught at Lakota schools.
And who is providing the list of books that we should replace these with?
The curriculum department,
And where are they getting their list?
from items that have been outdated or were no longer used anymore.
That be from Hamilton County ESC?
That was probably some of their recommendations, but for the most part, it's stuff that's been sitting on shelves for way too long.
Okay, thank you.
And we can't just throw things away.
Mrs. Buddy, I might suggest also that some of these questions would be better answered prior to the board meeting so that you can have those specifics. I wouldn't expect our two administrators to have that information at their fingertips without being notified ahead of time. So just a suggestion, I think you'll get more information that way.
I really like putting it in the public for them to hear. Thank you.
I recognize that you like doing that in public, but to be more productive, you might consider doing it in a different way.
I think it's important to be transparent.
I think it's okay to raise those questions in meetings as well, but provide the questions to them ahead of time so they can actually give you the information that you're seeking.
I got my information. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion, board?
No.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the sale or disposal of used textbooks. Mrs. Logan, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Bodie.
No.
We'll move to number 13, public comments. And again, we're going to pick up those that did not have an opportunity to speak in our first public comment session. So we will start with Thaddeus Kuhn. We have 30 minutes. Please pay attention to the board. I'd like to get through everybody who's on the list, and we'll need to move quickly to make sure that happens. I'm sorry, did somebody say he left?
He left.
Okay, all right, thank you. Bob Cheney? Are you still here?
God bless you.
Jeff Brown will follow. Penny Greenlow, and then Emily Jackson. Go ahead, sir.
Well, good evening and happy National Vanilla Milkshake Day. I've been thinking about that the entire time back there.
And you didn't bring us
I've got a
any?
tub of ice cream waiting for me. Just a couple of quick things. During the discussion of the board discussion a little earlier, the whole discussion about arming teachers, it was mentioned that further discussion is needed. I absolutely agree with that. And it was mentioned that several local politicians will be invited in to talk. Well, that's fine, but I certainly expect that others will be invited to give their opinion as well, such as further input from the Lakota Educators Association, the Ohio Education Association, the Ohio Federation of Teachers, the National Association of School Resource Officers, the American Medical Association, the American Bar Association. Let's listen to those experts to hear why they oppose HR 99. The other thing I would like to mention, last week I happened to be looking at the lineup for the Cincinnati Pride Parade that will be taking place next week. And smile came to my face when I saw that our very own Lakota East High School Gender Sexuality Alliance will be participating in the Pride Parade. So I would like to give them a public public shout out for their welcoming of all students, showing that all students are welcome here at Lakota. And I do encourage the board to continue to promote programs and policies that actively welcome students and make all students feel welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Please, folks. Jeff Brown is up next, Mrs. Greenler, and then Emily Jackson.
I'm Jeff Brown, a resident here in Liberty Township, and I have a son who's on the list for the impractical transportation. And I just wanted to put another face in front of you saying that the inconvenience of this is really problematic. I'm sitting and I'm listening, I'm understanding the rock and the hard place. I do get it. Now my wife and I were sitting here talking, okay, well, I mean, the decision's made here. Now, two of us full-time workers, one car, it's a 2004 Corolla, 230,000 miles on it. How are we going to do this? How do we break free during a school day? We've been very grateful for the school, the service that we've had thus far, and appreciate that opportunity to use that service. And whatever you can do to find that opportunity, I just would encourage you. We're not, it's folks like us. The economy's hitting us too. We're between a rock and a hard place as well. And we have to now figure out what we're going to do while we have a summer to do it. In this economy, who knows what's going to happen in another couple months. So I just wanted to voice that to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mrs. Greenler. Emily Jackson will follow. Kelly Daniel, join the lineup, please.
So I'm Penny Greenler, Westchester.
Mrs. Greenler, will you talk into the mic a little bit more, please?
Pull it down, maybe.
Thank you.
Is that better?
It's okay to bend
Is that
it
better?
towards you.
Okay. First, I would like to thank our board member who proudly showcased our great Lakota schools to the Ohio public at large. Photos showed that we are inclusive, welcoming to all public school children, that we teach kindness and real factual history. No wonder the enrollment goes up every year. In fact, Lakota Schools was the reason we moved here in 1989. And we have proudly graduated 3 successful students who are now successful college graduates. Thank you, Lakota. Secondly, I am totally opposed to the proposal for additional training for teachers to conceal carry at Lakota. Once again, there's no factual basis for this proposal. These are the facts. 1, presence of armed officers does not keep people from targeting schools. 2, the best trained NYPD police officers have a hit ratio of 18% for gunfights. 3, in cases where suspects did not return fire, NYPD officers hit their targets 30% of the time. 4, in cases where police officers intentionally fired a gun at a person, they hit their target 28% of the time. 5, guns kill more American children than cancer. 6, police and schools have mishandled guns or allowed students to get their hands on weapons more than 60 times. Bringing more guns into schools makes schools more dangerous. 8, the rate of deaths was almost 3 times greater in schools with an armed guard present. If the public wants to arm teachers, do so by providing teachers with services to help children. Give schools more nurses, psychologists, and other wraparound services, and continue SEL in the classrooms. Since we care about our students' welfare and their education, the Lakota School Board resolution should be written that no Lakota school teacher shall be allowed to carry guns in schools. Thirdly, it's time to stop distracting the board's time and energy with political campaigns and sound bites for the next elections, and focus on continuing the excellent education already in place at Lakota. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Greenler. Mrs. Jackson is up. Mrs. Daniel follows. Vicki Weirden. Is Vicki still here? Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Hey, Thank you, Emily Jackson. I appreciate the board recognizing that it was a resolution more about policy and that more discussion is needed. So just some additional questions for you as you discuss this. If a substitute is in the classroom without advance notice, is she going to know that the Glock is next to the glue? It seems really outlandish until it happens. What is going to be the trauma for the fourth grader who's been doing quarterly Alice drills and then seeing their teacher hold a gun? The financial liability. The board president has mentioned a few times that we have some new board members to ask Mrs. Logan to take it slow when discussing the 5-year forecast, but yet we are bringing expensive resolutions to the discussion. What is the liability of you publicly supporting arming teachers and then a teacher accidentally hurts one of our children? And as a public employer, if you do decide to arm our teachers, will there be a list of teachers who have guns in their schools? Because many of us will not want them teaching our children anymore. I see several teachers here tonight, and I noticed that they were at the past meeting about a trespassing incident. Both of these topics fall under student safety. The teachers are telling you how they feel, what they collectively believe is the best way to protect our kids. It's SROs, and I hope you're listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Mrs. Daniel is up. Mrs. Weirden follows. Diane Waiter, if you please join the lineup.
Hi, good evening. Kelly Daniel, Westchester, first time talking here. Been know many of you, some others not so much, but I do have an announcement this evening. And I think the display that we've seen this evening kind of lends to it as well. On April 27th, at an emergency school board meeting, 4 board members voted to censure and request the resignation of a board member. That board member has refused to resign. A group of concerned citizens has raised funds to retain an attorney. That attorney has prepared a legal complaint to remove this board member. The first opportunity for residents of Westchester and Liberty Township to sign the complaint to continue the legal removal process will be the July 4th Liberty Township Parade. More information is available at the website removedarbybody.com. Thank you.
Mrs. Weirden, you're up. Mrs. Waiter is next. Alex Argo, please join the lineup, and Rusty Jesse, you'll close us out tonight. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Vicki Worden. I'm a retired public school master level teacher. I'm a resident of Westchester, and all 3 of my children went all the way through Lakota schools, K through 12. They all 3 have settled in the area, and I have 1 grandchild in Lakota schools right now. And in the next 3 years, I'll be adding 1 every year. I'm here on behalf of my children. My family strongly supports the social emotional learning program. We know that when you feed children physically, emotionally, socially, we know that they learn better. They're better prepared to learn. Also, it leads to fewer classroom disruptions, which take teachers' attention away from those precious instructional minutes. So it's a win-win. My family says, please keep the social emotional learning program. Another topic, critical race theory. It is a concept of study regarding the history of our laws and how certain groups of people have been impacted. It appears mostly in law school or postgraduate sociology classes. Any other definition that anyone is getting is not from a reputable source. Someone said at a previous board meeting that it seems that everyone has a different definition for it. That's not okay. You can't have an intelligent discussion and meaningful communication on any topic if everyone is defining it differently. So I implore everyone, board members, community, everyone, to stop using the term CRT. It's not appropriate in this arena. whatever a person has that is an item of concern, be it a t-shirt being sold at school or a diversity bulletin board or a book your child brings home that you question the content, articulate your concern specifically so that there can be meaningful communication happening. And for the love of God, please don't arm teachers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Wareham. Diane?
Good evening, Diane Wyatter. First of all, I'd just like to thank the board for your service. I've been to a few board meetings recently and just really appreciate more and more the work you do in governing and really guiding the direction of the schools and the school system here in Lakota. I don't have children. I have nieces and nephews, but I am an employer and I am also an educator. And so this is an important area for me as I've had opportunity to join in the conversation for the Lakota School Board. My comments tonight were intended around just requesting some urgency on the curriculum review. Mr. Miller, you addressed that earlier, and I appreciate that. However, I would still like to address and say it would be helpful to understand the process that will be taking place with that review. I also agree with the board member who suggested that there be a list of specific questions that come from the board and perhaps the community for what will be being reviewed in essence in that curriculum. While there's been some avoidance too around discussing Mrs. Logan's leave tonight with the acceptance of the new treasurer, I just want to say too that I've appreciated very much your context and your organizational memory and the way that you have brought forth the financial information in an understandable and I would say a concise manner. I have really appreciated that. It's brought a lot of knowledge and particularly, again, your organizational knowledge and your context have been very helpful. It's something that will be lost even though you've had the mentoring with the new gentleman. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wyatter. Mr. Argo is up.
My name is Alex Argo. There's been a lot of talk tonight about what we want to have in our schools, specifically regards to firearms, but I wanted to take that conversation and pivot it a little bit to talk about critical race theory again. So we've heard many different definitions of that. I've heard the academic definition from various people, and that one makes sense to me. Other board members have defined CRT based on what it supposedly does, not what it is. First, it was defined by saying that it caused hopelessness, which led to school shootings, no mention of race. A few meetings ago, the definition was changed to it made people not want to join the army and not be proud of their country. Again, no mention of race. But most recently, that definition was changed to it was something that divided people. Still not a single mention of the word race. We got a new definition tonight from someone else that I'm still, I admit, trying to wrap my head around. So I'm not sure what the deal with that one is. Yet another board member has worked on a bill with our state senator to outlaw CRT, and I haven't seen the results of that. So unless that bill was diverted to a substitute House bill or something, I'm not sure what that definition is either. But playing the definition game seems to be a losing battle. So let's get specific. Let's talk about what we do and do not want to see in our classroom in specific terms. Here are some things that I want to see taught in our schools. Let's teach students to identify, recognize, and name emotions, even if others feel differently. Let's teach them to demonstrate internalization of personal responsibility and being accountable as one prepares for post-secondary life. To apply strategies to regulate emotions and manage behaviors. Identify and acknowledge others' viewpoints, knowing that both sides do not have to agree, but can still be respectful. Let's teach students to demonstrate empathetic reactions in response to others' feelings and emotions, to demonstrate respect for human dignity, virtually and in person. Demonstrate the ability to give and receive feedback in a respectful way. apply conflict resolution skills to manage disagreements and maintain personal safety. These are all things that I want to see taught in schools. These are things that might even help prevent a school shooting. These are also things that might help, that employers want to see, things that help you to become a successful entrepreneur and things that will help you in college. I presume they would probably help you in the military too, but that's not my area of expertise. These also happen to be some of the state standards for social emotional learning, if you hadn't caught on yet, mostly for
Mr.
grades
Argo,
3 to 5.
please wrap your comments up.
If you don't want whatever it is that critical race theory is to be taught in schools, be specific. Let us know what specifically you do not want to be taught in schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Argo. Mr. Jesse?
Rusty Jesse. I believe that if you're going to question or critique someone publicly, you should be willing to compliment in public as well. I'm glad I'm here to thank and compliment this evening. Last Labor Day weekend on September 3rd, my daughter was harassed on social media by another East senior, someone she knew. It was severe enough that it upset both her and my wife greatly. Was it because she's conservative, not wearing a mask, a Christian? I don't know, and I really didn't care. At the football game that evening, Katie saw Mr. Burnside and showed him the screenshots of what she had found. After the game, we decided to call Butler County Sheriff Deputy over to the house, and we filed a police report against this student. Nothing happened because we were concerned that there would be issues going on, someone yakking it, we were concerned. So nothing happened that evening at the game, but additional posts did show up over the weekend. On Monday, I emailed Mr. Burnside at East, letting him know that we had reviewed this situation after looking at the East Student Handbook, found that the student had committed multiple level 2 and level 3 offenses, which calls for a suspension from school. And we requested that he respond to us by the end of the day on Tuesday, the 7th. So we, sent the email on Labor Day, asked for him to get back to us the next day. On Tuesday evening, as requested, we received an email from Burnside letting us know that appropriate discipline had been administered according to school policy and that the offender's parents had been notified. He also let us know that the school had contacted the social media companies and requested the accounts be removed, and that did happen. Between the students, the discipline the student received and the conversation that the student had with the detective, we did not hear a peep out of that kid again for the rest of the year. And later that year, another student, Lakota student, I don't know if they were at East or Tech or where they were, decided to resurrect this matter. Katie saw the postings, went into the office, showed Mr. Burnside the posts, and she never heard a peep out of this student again. So Mary and I, her mom, we are thankful to Rob Burnside and the staff at East that this matter was handled properly and promptly. And on an aside, Matt, I fully support you on your stance on guns. We do not need them in the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jesse. Mr. Miller, would you like to respond to any of that?
No, I appreciate the acknowledgement of Mr. Burnside and all the work that he did in that situation. So thanks for doing that, Mr. Jesse. I don't think I have anything else that I haven't already said this evening. So I appreciate everyone's comments and everyone being here.
Mrs. Bodie, we'll have you start with closing comments.
Thank you. So I just wanted to read, so in recognition of inherent physical differences between boys and girls, males and females, as defined by their chromosomal male as XY, female XX, and anatomical distinctions that represent advantages over males over females regarding physical strength, speed, and endurance. I move that organized competitive sports for girls will remain exclusive to girls. Boys, as defined in this policy, may not compete in any organized athletic competition that is or was designed or designated for girls. This policy is not meant to interfere with co-ed, intramural sports, or casual athletic events, or any other sporting event traditionally or specifically designated as co-ed, It is designed as a safeguard against girls' sports being rendered obsolescent. And again, you did say that we will be discussing this in policy, so I look forward to that. And I do want to say that the definition that I gave is from the authors themselves. So it's not made up. And then I also want to say that I do not agree with gay pride being celebrated in elementary school. The celebration of gay pride is sexual, and we do not want to sexualize our children. Thank you.
So we will not respond to the motion because we're in closing comments. So thank you for your comments, Mrs. Schaefer.
I'm just going to focus on Mr. Zink. I look forward to your many years of service and all that you are going to bring to the district. I continue to like to thank our staff for sticking in here with us and continuing to do what's best for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Ms. Casper.
Since we've met last, we have graduated 1,300 plus students. So that's a not yes. I think we can clap for that, can't we, Mrs. Okami? So graduation is always my favorite time of the year. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to our recent graduates and wish them luck. And